Hi everyone, this is episode 18 of Triple Cross Cinema. We're going to Iran in this postcard. We're looking back at the what they call the first new wave of Iran. Looking back at the film from the 60s and 70s. We're going to watch Brick and Mirror, 1963, The Cow, 1969, and Still Life, 1974.
Yeah, I've seen some conflicting reports, I suppose, about the year in which Brick and Mirror, or The Brick and the Mirror, depending on
Mhm.
what website you're looking at, actually debuted. I've seen
Yep, yep, yep.
1963, 64, and 65, and I've seen its title, romanized or translated a couple
Yep.
different ways as well. So I guess the
Yeah,
film is obscure enough that there's some confusion or some disagreement on those
I agree.
points,
Yep.
which is a shame because I
I
thought Brick and Mirror was pretty good.
I do agree with you on both of the assessments. I think it's these three out of like all the movies that we have watched so far. These three are the most obscure. Like not a lot of people know about this film. I don't even like heard about any of these films before we doing this.
You mean like in terms of all the 18 podcast episodes, the recordings we've done so far
Yeah, that's
that are
right.
the most obscure? Okay. Yeah, I guess so.
And like for me, the I know most about the Iranian cinema through the 90s, or towards today. So with Abbas Kia Rosami, and the likes, they are really that reached the international stage. This one is more like grassroots, so to speak.
I guess so.
And yeah, and but it also deals with many, I would say like Iranian societies at the time.
I'm not a historian, so I really can't confirm that. I don't know
Yeah,
if these
well,
films are accurate documents or not. I would assume that they are, at least in part, you
yeah,
know.
well,
So they're part of a particular movement, cinematic movement,
mm,
that's been labeled as new wave. And well, I
yeah,
mean, I guess new wave films, when you
uh,
think of them in terms of like France or whatever, they're not particularly uh, naturalistic or dedicated to social issues.
mm, mm,
That would be more like neorealism. That's not really what these feel in terms of subject matter, maybe a little bit more like neorealistic films.
yep, yep, yep. I agree. And even when I use the term the Iranian first new wave, it's not entirely correct as well because some people doesn't prick and mirror, for example, as part of the new wave.
Hmm.
Yep. So
That's
they
interesting because it was the most new wave feeling film out of the three.
I agree with you on that, but they consider the cow is like the first, and like the one of the most prominent first new wave in Iran.
Man, what a film to kick off your movement. A film where a guy thinks he's a cow.
Yep. I think absurdity is a part of that, but yeah, I think like the three films share some of the same attributes. So they are really like neo-realism, as you say. Uh, they shot everything on stage like in natural light, and maybe use no, it's not true. I was about to say that use not professional actors, but I think they are actors. They are real actors.
Yeah, well, I don't know whether they
Yeah.
are or aren't, but there were some good performances
Yeah, yeah,
across
that's true.
these films. There were some that weren't as polished, but that's to be expected. And you can sometimes it's easier to appreciate a performance when it's not you know so labored over.
Yeah, that's true. And I think it's add to the fact that they are mostly unknown to us, so we don't really know them outside of these performances, and
Yeah,
that's why I think it's making the impact.
yeah, and Iranian cinephile would you tell them a name of an actor in one of these films, then of course they would immediately know whether they were
Yep.
a professional actor, what other films they had appeared in,
Yep.
which directors they collaborated with most frequently, etc. But
Yep.
the whole point of us doing this, as always, I think, is just expand our horizons a little bit and see
Mm.
what's out there, whether it be good or bad or um, you know enjoyable or not for either of us.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so let's start with the first one that was released. It's
In
the
a
Prick in
mystery
the
year,
Mirrors. In the mystery, yes, I agree.
yeah,
Yeah, sometime between 1963 and 1965, Prick and Mirrors premiere.
right. Yeah, I mentioned
Did
earlier I
it?
thought it was a pretty good watch.
I agree with you on that. I feel that for the neo-realism approach, it has some moment that it feel a bit like they are on stage. It I when watching this movie, I just think that it could be really it's a perfect material to do it on stage. Like all people just on the stage, the sound stage, and just uh do the dialogue with each others.
Right. Yeah, specifically the restaurant scene near the start
Hmm.
after
Hmm.
he comes back from trying to find the woman who left the baby in his cab. Hashem,
Yep.
I mean, the main character.
Yep.
Yes, the very dialogue heavy portions of the film. Dude, I had the same thought. It feels a little bit like a playwright wrote it,
Hmm.
rather than a screenwriter,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is kind of fun because the cast of characters in that restaurant scene are all very. I thought the film was going to be a little bit more sardonic and a little more lighthearted based on the material in the in that scene. Like you got the intellectual who's talking about how
Hmm.
crosswords and the solving of crosswords is like a form of high art.
Yep.
And then you got
Yep.
the
Yep.
the poet guy who's coming up
Yep.
with all these ridiculous motivations and theories and um, like
Uh,
conspiracies that may surround Hashem's life, what he's gotten himself involved with now that he's trying to find the mother of this child. Um, it's very, very amusing stuff.
yeah. Yeah. I think he's my favorite, the poet the poet ones, because like he come up with all the theory, and he let he give doubt basically to Hashem for like not he give all the reason for Hashem not to go to the police station. And then when Hashem left, he just said like like this guy is fishy. You see, like he didn't want to go to the police station.
Yeah. Yeah, he does. He kind of contradicts himself at multiple points. I feel he just wants to be as like theatrical as possible to kind of
Yep, yep, yep,
impose his personality on people by saying whatever springs into his mind.
yep. Theatrical, I think, is a good word, because that's and poetic as well. Sometimes I feel that like while this film approach is more of like religion, it's sometimes it's work it have a touch of theatrical in there.
Yeah,
Like like the very fact that Hashem like find out the baby in his taxi, but he couldn't find the mother anywhere. Uh Even though that she just left him just, I say, a minute ago.
yeah. That element of the film, just the first scene, I guess, or the first couple scenes, everything before the
Hmm.
restaurant, I felt like there was
Yep.
some surrealism going
Yep.
on there,
Yep.
like him going into the ruined house and speaking
Yep.
to the old woman who cares for the two outcasts, I
Yep.
suppose we'll call them, who are living there.
Yep.
Every time like she appears on screen and speaks, the background is completely black, completely dark,
Hmm.
and
Yep.
she's like shoved over to the right side of the frame,
Yep.
um, as though she's like speaking from another place, like
Yep.
not the physical realm, but she's speaking like directly to Hashem. Even though we see them walking through the house together in some
Yep.
scenes, obviously it's a literal place, but it does seem to be a bit of like almost a supernatural experience, or
Yep.
supernatural
Yep.
is not the right word, but it's surreal.
Yep,
And
yep,
he's
yep.
he's clearly shaken by it. He's still shaken when he comes into the restaurant and starts to speak to all of his friends, acquaintances, whatever they are.
Yep. And I love that shot. I love the shot where he like holding the babies going up the stairs, and we see just how surreal that is. Like he just walking up to like a ruins, and like basically a step to nowhere.
I assume you're talking about the scene where the camera tracks him as he goes up and kind of like moves through the
Yep,
floor.
yep, yep, yep,
Yeah,
yep.
I remember that shot as well. And but the one that struck me most
Hmm.
in that scene was um, she's the woman that he meets in the ruined house is talking. She's talking his ear off about the misfortunes that have befallen the other two people who are living there, and
Hmm.
eventually she starts to talk about how where this house is now there used to be like a field of wheat, and then people came and put up so many walls, just walls and walls. And as she's saying all this, we've got the same darkened screen behind her, but she's turned away from the camera. She's walking away from it, and she's
Hmm.
like, I don't know how exactly she's lit so that nothing around her is visible. It's only her, but it's a very striking
Hmm.
uh, effect. I don't know if you remember this scene.
Yep, yep. I do, I do, I
I
do.
don't. Yeah, I was like, as it was happening, and she was walking further and further away. The lighting was staying consistent, but nothing around her could be made out through the darkness. I was like, how did they do this? Is it? I mean,
Yep,
the film was retouched and recolored. I assume digitally. There was some text at the start of my video file about that. So
yep,
maybe they achieved or like improved on this scene a little bit digitally somehow to make that happen,
yep,
or maybe
yep.
not. I don't know. It was very striking.
Well, yeah, I actually got the two version of Prick and Mirror. So I got like the one version where they have like the English hash up, and I was about to watch it until like I realized that the quality was really bad.
Oh,
So that's why I went back to the to the better version, which actually looked pretty good, except that this have the Italian hash up and the English hash up on top of that.
yeah. I've seen a couple
The
films
English
that way
subs.
before.
Yeah, I'd be able to get through, but the quality is much better than the old one. So I would say that Brick and Mirror just got restoration, and the version that we both saw, and it improved a lot from the original quality.
Yeah, I there are a bunch of people who work on stuff like that. Cinephiles, audio and video
Yeah.
technicians and
I know that's
whatever.
the Scorsese, the directors. He
Yeah, I
he
know
doing
he's
some of the restoration as
yeah,
well.
he's really involved in that.
Yep.
Well, that's good for
That's that.
him, good for movie lovers everywhere. Good for this
I
movie
agree.
since it received some sort of treatment in that regard.
Yep.
Um, it was, it was difficult to make out some detail, even on
Hmm.
let's call it remastered version that I had. Like the taxi scenes where the camera was looking out through the window, and there were like food stalls and
Hmm.
I don't know what else, just vendors on the street selling stuff. It was really difficult to make out those sorts of details, but I guess they
Hmm.
aren't crucial to understanding the movie.
Yeah, because I assume the scene that you should talk about it happened during the nighttime, right? So we just see
Yeah.
like on the neon lit and the light,
Well, I wasn't
and
talking about the neon lights specifically. Those I think there's intended to be like a high level of contrast between just the dark and the lights like glaring,
mm, mm,
standing out really brightly. And
yep,
that's definitely intentional. It factors into the film part of the part of the dialogue of the doctor who's in the police station,
yep,
which
yep,
is the
yep.
first place that Hashem goes in order to try to offload this baby to somebody. Nobody will
Hmm.
take it. The doctor talks about like the lights, like spying on us and being evil or something along those
Yep,
lines.
yep, yep. Oh, I think that scene worked really well as well. Like Hashem trying to explain the like his stories. And the police just got interrupted every time because the doctor just keep complaining about he getting assault by other people, and it might or might not link with like with the baby that Hashem has as well, because they're talking about the pregnant woman, and she just delivered the baby just a few weeks ago, so right at the same time this baby was born. But he then said that that baby was dead, you know.
Yeah.
So it adds some of these surrealism in there as well. I love that. I dig that.
Yeah, there's also a link between what the story that the doctor is telling and the fabrication, made up by the poet in the restaurant when he talks about people trying to like run a scheme. Hashem would go to the police station, and there would be people there saying, "Hey, uh, this man beat us up and took all of our valuables, including our wallet and our watch, etc." And then when you hear the doctor talking to the police about the things that he lost in the assault, it's his wallet and his watch. It's like he lists several of
Uh,
the same things that Hashem's friend
uh,
was talking about. So yeah, there are
Jesus.
there are links between like what comes before and after between those two
I
scenes.
I didn't make that connection, but yeah, good point.
For irony's sake, it's just humorous.
Yep, yep,
Um,
yep,
the the film does offer you some humor, some irony,
yep,
but
yep.
as you go on, it gets more and more somber. I think until
Yeah,
eventually you get all the shots of the babies in the orphanage near the end,
yep.
and then you're like, "Oh man, this is not funny. This isn't
Yeah.
funny anymore, man. This is
That's true, and I think I really appreciate the fact that the film show Hashem, our main characters, uh he's not as likable as as the usual lead. He has his own problem as well. But at first, all the event that we just talked about, we just know him as like the poor taxi driver who like have a baby child that he did not expect, and we just see him go through the motion. But then later on, when he and his girlfriend, I think his name is Tachi, talk together inside his apartment, that we learn about his situation and his personality.
yeah, yeah. It's true. His like negativity, his pessimism, his
Mm.
bleak outlook on life, his fear and his paranoia of other people judging him.
Yep.
That all of that is reserved, I think, for his interactions with Taji because seeing her like brings that out of him, I suppose.
Mhm. Yep, that's true.
So you at first you just think he's like some poor hapless sod, especially given the
Mhm.
way that he reacts to all of his buddies' stories about what could happen to him if he goes to the police station. Like his eyes are really wide and he's kind of looking back and forth between everybody else at the table to try to get a sense of whether this could really happen to him if he's really in deep trouble.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, but the film does as it goes on, it leaves a lot of that behind, and it becomes
Mhm.
about the difficulty that he has in his relationship his relationship to the whole world. Really, I was going to say his
That,
relationship with Taji, but
yep.
just his
That's
his neighbors and his thoughts,
and even
himself,
like his profession as well.
his profession. I guess.
Yeah. Well.
I mean, he doesn't express too much antipathy for being a taxi driver. I don't think. He
Yep.
he probably is a taxi driver. He just became one because it was a job that was available, and he probably thought to himself, "Well, it's a job. It's the same as anything else." Because he has that sort of resignation about him. Well,
Mhm.
life is no matter where you go, life is going to be. There are going to be disappointments. It's pointless to look for a new apartment where things might be better,
Yep.
um, because
It,
anywhere you
yeah.
go, people are going to be, they're going to be
Judging
jealous.
you.
They're going to be spying on
Y-
you. They're going to be judging you.
And it even worse that he said like like if at least here I know the people.
Right.
Like in a new place, I don't know who my neighbor is, and like they will have the same judging look again over again. It's the same everywhere,
Right.
So he just fed up his life. He just like afraid of all people talking about him, but he's like at the same time he afraid to do any change.
Yeah. Well, he not only is he afraid, um, he I don't think he views change as like a possibility. He
Yep,
just thinks that
yep,
all of us are going through life kind of lost because that's
yep.
that's the way he feels. And in fact, him feeling lost is like visualized in the scene where he goes to the government building, kind of like City Hall, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, there are some scenes, and this is where I felt as though, when I was talking about these films having more like um, feeling a bit more like they're Italian neorealist films in terms of their focus on social issues. This
Hmm.
is where this film got a little bit new wavy for me.
Yep, yep.
There are shots of him like going through doors into new rooms that are repeated and reversed multiple
Oh,
times. Like
really?
as he's trying to navigate through City Hall, that we get the same. We'll see him go through a door, and then
Yep.
the camera on the other side of the wall, we'll see him enter the new room, and then we'll get a shot of him going through this a similar looking door, but in the other direction, and then it loops back around to him going through the door he was at before. Like we get the same shot.
I
Um,
didn't even make that connection, but
well, I'm
I
I'm
think good
surprised
catch
to
up
hear
here.
that because it like we there's 30 seconds worth of him just going through doors and going absolutely nowhere.
Well, that's what I see as well, but I didn't really make the connection that he going to know like in reverse. It did actually a pretty inspiring choice to make. Wow.
Yeah, well, it communicates that he feels he has no direction. Like he doesn't know where he's going. He's
Yep.
kind of lost. Like he says later when he's talking to Taji as he's trying to get her to give up on the baby, her
Hmm.
dreams.
Hmm.
He keeps telling her like accusing her of dreaming, and eventually she
Hmm.
comes around and says, "Well, so what's so wrong with that? Like my only crime here is like thinking that you would uh, be a man.
Hmm.
It's not a crime to dream. I just shouldn't have deluded myself into thinking that you would go along with it."
Yep.
So yeah,
Ooh.
he feels lost, and he feels as though, man, I don't. It's really like you can, if you go back and rewatch this film,
Hmm.
um, you could really study everything that he has to say and all of his actions, and you would come up with a portrait of somebody who's like kind of, I don't know. It feels like he's just waiting to die almost.
Yeah. Well, I actually feel that like him, Hashem and Taji, like when they think about the baby child, they think about it differently. So Hashem think of the like the lost child as like the burden, so he want to get rid of it, and Taji actually feel that it's an opportunity to like to become a better like to have a better life with this child
Well, she
with
says
them.
multiple times that she sees the child as something that would bring them together
Yep, yep,
because it,
yep.
it watched them as they had sex.
Yeah.
That was pretty weird.
Yeah, it is. And but yeah, I think Tachi is really an unsung hero uh of these stories.
I don't know about
See,
unsung. She's one of the two main characters.
well, Hashem doesn't really think much about her issue at all, so that's make her like a really like an unsung hero to
I
me.
guess he wouldn't sing about her, at least.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, and other thing about like she wanted to this time to make love in the light, not in the dark.
Right.
And then she also tell him that this is the first time that she does that not in the dark. Because she was um yeah, I would assume that she is the prostitute.
I got that sense from a couple like stray lines as well. Yeah.
Yep. And I think that's the main reason that Hashem doesn't want like the neighbor to see her in his apartment.
I don't think. I mean, I guess that would contribute, but I really don't think that's the only reason. I mean,
Y- Yeah,
we're
well,
talking
yeah.
about 1960s Iran here. I don't
Mm,
imagine
mm,
that like premarital sex is
yeah.
exactly smiled
And
upon. You know.
I think this is before the Islamic revolution in Iran, and all I can say now is that maybe even now it even more extreme now than like what happening in the 1960s Iran,
I don't know. I have
where
no idea
where
about that.
where unwedded men and women stay together and like have sex before marriage.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't compare the two. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a 60-year gap, especially if in your quest to solve the mystery of when this film came out, you take the earliest possible choice. That would be exactly 60 years between now and then, 1963.
Is it only 60 years? Yeah, 60. Yep, that makes sense. Wow, it's 60 years already. And consider that the director is still alive even today.
Yeah,
It's like a hundred.
I saw that. He's
Yep.
exactly 100 years old, right? I think that was
He.
Ibrahim Golistan, the director of Brick and
Yep.
Mirror, and not one of the other two.
Yeah. That's true. Yep. He is exactly 100 years old.
Can you imagine being 100 years old?
Ah, not really. Nope.
Yeah.
So good for him.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I would say good for him. I feel like there are probably some people who are 100 years old who are just like, they just want to die. They're ready,
Yeah.
you know?
I know a guy who was 91 years old and he have assisted suicide.
Oh, yeah. Is that legal in
That's
us
got
in where you're from?
no. That's got that from and it's
Oh,
legal in where he's from in Switzerland. I don't think it's legal here.
okay. Huh. Boy.
All
Yeah,
right. Well,
this film's very philosophical. I guess that's how we strayed onto a topic like that. There's a
yep.
lot of highly philosophical dialogue, even in the police station
Oh,
when the doctor is talking to the cop. The cop is like, "Oh, crime and victimhood and misfortune. Those are just like the mud on the street or the dust in the air. We just have to shake them off."
yep,
He views like suffering and misfortune as just inevitable parts of being alive.
yep.
Uh, it's
And
very, you don't usually hear dialogue like that from a police officer in a film. It's usually, get down on the ground,
and
put your hands behind your back, that sort of thing.
yeah, and he says something further than that as well. He says something along that. Like we, me as the police and you as the doctor to just perform a role until the future where like there is no crime at all. We are ceased to exist and not something like I just paraphrasing at the moment.
Yeah.
And yeah, he said like like we basically it's just like I'm here to perform a role as a police.
Right. Yeah, like his job is not to prevent crime or
Yep,
to fix things that are broken or to help those in need. His role is just to be a police officer.
yep.
Yeah.
Maintain order, but yeah, well, yeah, I love that. And even later on when Hashem bring the baby to the orphanage,
Are you talking about the
and
orphanage or the hospital? Is there a
uh,
distinction between those two? Because there's the scene where he goes to what I believe is a hospital.
right, I think,
Are
well,
they the same or
I
are
would
they
say
different?
is they might be different. I think they are hospital because they look like hospital, but they accept unwanted child, I think.
Yeah, I got the sense that there were two different
Yep,
places,
yep.
but
I agree with you. Yep.
I could be I don't know. I don't know that for sure.
And yeah, and in that hospital we hear the story of like a historical mother, a woman who like who wanted to have a child but she couldn't pregnant, And then we have a really weird shot of like the nurse herself, like just listen to the phone, and like her face, she's just like on a trance. She's just like in another planet at the time.
Yeah. That scene, so th- that echoed, I think, what happened in the police station because in both of those scenes, Hashem tells his story to somebody else off
Mhm.
camera.
Yep, true. Yep.
And you hear what he's saying, but you also hear like competing dialogue over top of him talking about the baby and the fact that it was left in his cab and he couldn't find the woman,
Mhm.
etc.
Yep.
In the police station, it's the doctor
Yep.
who's talking over top of him as he eventually tells the story to the guy at the other desk.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
in this one, it's the camera. He's off camera once again. The camera's holding on the nurse on the phone, and then you're hearing some of the dialogue from the woman who was pretending to be pregnant, and had a bunch of rags wrapped in like cloth uh,
Mhm.
over top of his story once again. So it's like the film is it's very it's very in your face about it. It's
Yep.
very
I
bold choice to kind of move away from Hashem for a little bit and address some of the other I guess failings of Iranian institutions
Yep.
during this time
Well,
period, because I think that's the film's ultimate message is that
mhm.
the institutions that are in place, be it the cops, be it uh, the doctors, nurses, hospitals, be it the orphanages, the overflowing orphanages, um, they're they're breaking down.
Mhm. Oh wow, I thought that was a perfect choice. Like we don't really want to hear Hashem just telling the same story over and over again. So,
That's
like
true.
we we got to see another angles,
Right.
and another people just talking about their things. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, even just in terms of a viewing experience, it gives you
Yep.
something a little bit different.
And and I would say like there is a lot of difference between like Hashem talking to men and to women. Like you get the sense where Hashem talked to like many of his college, like during the table, that like they really see again, they see the baby as just like a nuisance. And for the ladies, it's not really the case. So we have like the Tachi, the girlfriend, and the nurses here as well. So I just think that the nurse here, she's just really like no nonsense about that. Just go straight, like does the baby have any birth registration? You have to do that, otherwise we cannot take the baby.
Yeah, well,
And
it's her job, and she doesn't appear to be
that's it.
particularly enthusiastic about it.
Yeah. Oh, I was saying all that to lead to the point where Hashem go to the court and meet one of the guy there.
Yeah, that's where I mean, if you want to talk about the baby being a nuisance,
Yep.
his dialogue with Hashem is what is the apex of that idea, I guess. He
Yep.
refers to the baby as a brick.
Right. Yep.
Um,
Yep.
these things just happen. Sometimes you get hit with a brick, or a brick falls
Yep.
into your lap, or however it is that he phrases it. He calls the baby a brick, which is of course one
Yep.
of the two objects in the title.
Yep.
And so I guess the baby is the brick. The baby could also be the mirror, though.
hmm To reflect all of these people life,
Yeah,
miserable life. Yep.
yeah, just the emotions and the ideas that it brings out in Hashem and Taji. The baby would be the mirror. There's also a mirror in Hashem's apartment, and he looks into it and like runs his hands through his hair a couple times. I think Taji probably does that once as well. Looks in the mirror.
hmm Yep.
I
Yep. Yep.
doubt that the mirror in the title is a reference to that mirror specifically, but it is the only mirror that I remember seeing.
Yep.
But the guy who he talks to at the courthouse, government building, whatever it is, um, he he's like you're unmarried, you have no woman, you're making you're making money. Why do you want to trouble yourself with
Yep.
this baby?
Yep. That's right.
And that's just his
Uh.
straight up that he's like, don't do it. Don't
Yep.
do it. Don't pursue this any further. Just give it up. Get rid of it. Because you don't need to bring somebody else into your life to like weigh you down because we're all alone.
Mhm.
He speaks to that kind of direct. I guess Hashem's like his underlying belief that everyone is alone and everyone is lost. This guy who he talks to kind of reaffirms that in his mind.
Yep.
And
That's true.
the last line that he gets as he's going down the stairs and walking away from their conversation is, we're all alone, but that's why we have these institutions to fill in the gaps for us.
Mhm.
That's the last thing that he
Yep.
says. So the institutions of the law, medicine,
Yep.
caring for those who can't care for themselves, in
Mhm.
orphan children.
Yep.
That's why we have all those things because we're all alone. But those things will take care of us. They'll do what we can't as individuals.
Yep.
Problem is, as this film argues, I think those they can't do it. Like they can't fill in the gaps.
Yep. Mhm.
People have to do that themselves. And I think Taji is a character who's willing to do that, at least for most of the
Mhm.
film. And
Yep.
Hashem is a character who's not willing to do that.
That's true. That's true. Uh, that guy at the court though, like he say all that, and then he would occasionally just talk to ask Hassan that do you have a cigarette?
Right.
And then he took like like a handful of cigarettes
Yeah.
out of and then he asked again for the cigarette. He took another handful of the cigarettes, and then he asked for the light,
Right.
and then he keep the light. This guy so corrupted, man.
Yeah. I think
And
that guy was also the same person who was on the TV broadcast that Hashem sees
oh, was
towards the
he?
end.
Oh my
I'm pretty
God.
sure, yeah. I can't say that with 100% certainty, but I did take screenshots of both and put them next to each other and look at both of them. I'm like 99% sure it's the
Wow.
same guy. And of course, when he's on TV, he's talking about the importance of looking out for your brother, being constantly vigilant so that you can see where there are needs in your community and
Ah.
being sure to address them. And of course, when he was on his own, not speaking to anyone else, but just to Hashem, like not on television,
Yep.
not with a light shining in his face and a camera recording him, he said the
Yep.
opposite. So I think
Jeez.
that's
Yep.
probably a criticism of the people who
Mm.
preach that we need to take care of one another, but really what they're interested in is,
Themselves.
yeah, themselves, like just being visible, profiting from whatever position they exist in the public eye. Um,
Oh, wow. That make it
yeah,
so much better. Yep.
yeah, and the fact that there are so many televisions as well
Hmm.
makes his hypocrisy that much more like visually disgusting.
Yep.
Because it's not just him speaking to Hashem once. When it was man to man, it was just
Yep.
him to the guy that he was bumming cigarettes off of. Now
Yep.
though, there's so many of him. He's filling the screen with his lies, um,
Yep.
and it's
Yep.
that much worse for it.
All right. Uh, we nearly run out of time here for we just have 40 minutes talking about Rick and Mirror. So I think we just talk about the last events where Tachi come into the orphanage
Yeah,
to find the baby, and I think she couldn't like remember her face well enough in order to recognize the baby from all these from I would say there's hundreds of baby childs in that orphanage
yeah.
looking for love, looking for someone to take care of them.
Looking for a crib that they can bounce in, man.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Do you
true.
remember the scenes of the kids bouncing, like
Yeah,
rocking
well,
back and forth, and one of them,
that
it's
was just so uncanny, man.
I thought it was cute. Uh,
Oh, okay.
the the film doesn't it doesn't arrange the children in such a way and shoot them in such a way that you can tell they're observing one another and getting the idea from one another to start bouncing back and forth. But it
Yeah.
does. There are a bunch of shots that are very similar you know, staggered, you know, back to back. And
Yep.
it just, you know, the idea that one of them is kind of rocking back and forth and the other one sees that and starts to mimic them is just, you know, very funny to me, like kind of tickles me.
Yeah, but then when Tachi is left, like the baby just said like, the woman is gone now. And they just, like they give up the idea of, like they being adopted and, like just doing their things again. Just so it actually sent a chill down my spine watching that.
Are you talking
It's
about
not
the
cute at
scene where
all.
where it's all like the slightly older children who have their butts inside of like pots and pans and are
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
scooting around on the floor? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not what I was referring to. I was talking
All
about all the
right.
kids in their cribs, but yeah,
All right. Cool,
that
cool.
scene um yeah, I just I don't know exactly how to interpret every single shot from that scene, but in general my take on it is that Taji went in there, you know, feeling like full of purpose.
Yep.
And by the end, it was that was all sucked out of her. Like she when she
Yep.
saw the state that this place was in and how many children
Yep.
had been, you know, lost, abandoned, or had, you know, their parents had died, whatever their circumstances might be. She realized that this was not a task that she could, you know,
Yep.
she went in there thinking that she
Undertake.
was going to fix something, that she was going to do something. And when
Yep.
confronted with the impossibility of like changing things on a systemic level, um, she had to leave the room and go out into the hallway. And then you get the reverse dolly shot with her getting
Yep.
smaller and smaller, like her initial spark of optimism slowly dying the farther that the camera gets away from her.
Yep. 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 I think you hit the nail here. But yeah, I agree with all what you said. I just feel that, like the scene where she see all the babies is a tad bit, like too long. But I say that it really intentional to see,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
no.
The director is not. I mean, at the end there, when you get the shots of the children who are in their cribs and they're, you know, they're happy, they're cared for to the at least enough that they can, you know, smile a little bit and kind of, you know, they're not crying.
Yep.
But then
Well,
cut after a bunch of shots of those kinds of kids, cut to, you know, babies crying, you know, like without stopping, just
mhm,
making it difficult for themselves to breathe. They're so upset. And
mhm.
there's the scene of a little girl who's being injected with something. I had to
Yep.
look away. Like I had to put my hand up. I hate needles, so I had to put my hand up in
Mhm.
front of the screen during that scene so I wouldn't see it happening because I don't, you know,
Yep.
kids need shots. They need to be, you know, immunized. Is that the right? Is that how you say that word?
Yes, it too nice. Yeah.
Yeah, they got to get their shots so that they don't catch, you know, like measles or whatever and die.
Mhm.
But uh, it's just the idea of a child who's that small being injected like that without their parent around to like comfort them. You know, the
Mhm.
thought of it being so like matter of fact, so clinical, and it happening
Yep.
to so many children in that facility all the time
Yep.
is, you know, it's rough.
Yep. And if, even like I remember a baby just playing with the labels of her
Yeah,
names
right.
uh inside the cage. It just, yeah, well,
Well, that's her crib. I don't know if I would call it a cage.
all right. Yeah.
But I mean,
Well,
in a sense, cribs are cages. I mean,
yeah,
they got bars up to stop you from getting out. That's
yeah.
in the end, that's what they are.
Yeah, and then we have like the last shot of Hashem just, like he unsure if he should wait for Tachi, and then he decide to leave her
Yeah,
to to go on with his daily life.
Right. Yeah, well, he disappears into the city.
Yep.
It's like specific. That shot is long enough, specifically long enough, so that his car can completely disappear from sight.
Yep.
Because he just, in the end, in that final shot, he's absorbed into the city that doesn't care about these children, doesn't care about people who, have people who are victims of crimes, people who desperately want to adopt children because they can't have any of their own. Um, he disappears into that city and just becomes one of hundreds of thousands of people who live only for themselves
Mhm.
and are lost as a result.
Yeah. Well, I would say that it's just a shame that this film, like isn't widely looked by people because I would say that it's hold up very well. And like it could very well be a masterpiece of like of this era of the Iranian cinema.
Excuse me. Could be. I liked it.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
can't speak for anybody else. That was pretty good.
All right. You have any closing thought on that before we
Uh,
moving to the next one?
Now we gotta move on.
All right, let's go with what they say. This is the first film out of the first year Iranian New Wave. So
Sure.
this is The Cow.
Yeah.
It's about the guy who thinks himself as a cow, who
he
believes he is a cow,
he is a
basically.
cow.
Yeah.
He doesn't just believe it. He lives it. Lives it,
Yep.
breathes it. He eats it as well. He eats I
Yep.
don't know what is it? Hay, grass,
Hayes.
whatever. Yeah,
Yep.
he lives it. And he dies
I
for it
I
too.
yeah. I think the story itself is actually pretty straightforward. Yeah, we got the whole village. We got the guy who really loved cows, and one day he left to the cities or something for unknown reason.
Yeah, he just has to work, he
And
says. That's Hassan, the main character, I guess.
yep.
Hard to say whether he's the main character. He's the cow at any rate.
And then when he was gone, the cow was found dead, and we don't know the reason why the cow is dead because like it was healthy, it was having the babies, and one day bam is dead. So the village decide to like hide the fact in fear that like Hassan would react violently. So they told him that the cow had vanished, and slowly but eventually he become that said cow, and and at the end he died.
Yeah. I I'm sure this film is, widely beloved. I just couldn't. I
Take
just,
it seriously.
yeah, I was just kind of like chuckling to myself the whole
Yeah.
time. Um,
I think that's to the effect that like the story is very absurd, and like it whether or not you it it might not be important that you bought the the like the what's going on with the whole stories. It more like like using this story as a comment to uh again to the Iran society.
yeah, but this film's very different from Brick and Mirror, though, just in terms of its setting. We're talking about a village here,
Mhm.
not a city.
Yep.
I don't know what
Yep.
commentary is being offered here
Well,
exactly.
maybe like the closed society where uh they I would say like the way they treat the the disability people, like they have like one of the disabled people over there,
Right.
uh
And they tie
and
him up. In fact,
yeah, they
one
tie
of
him up.
one of the characters, the one who dresses in white and wears the hat and is like always contradicting people and kind of being a pain in everyone's ass.
Yep,
He's
yep,
like,
yep, yep.
let's just take him to the cow shed or wherever, wherever the
Hmm.
some out of the way building, and we'll tie him up so that he doesn't tell Hassan what happened to his cow.
Yep.
Yeah, clearly that's wrong. Um,
Yep.
but it's not as though the film really focuses on that. For a second,
Yeah.
as I was watching the film, I went in blind. I thought uh, that that was going to be like the dramatic crux of the movie is that they are going to tie this guy up and eventually he'll become like I don't know he'll I don't know what I thought would happen. Like he would become a cow in the village's mind. Like they were just gonna dehumanize him completely, and they would like treat him as an animal. And the film was gonna be
Well,
critical of people's attitudes towards the disabled or the differently abled, whatever term you want to use.
all
Um,
right.
but that didn't happen. It
We
was just about a guy who thought he was a cow.
but we got a bit of that at the end as well in regard to the main guy treatment to Hassan. Like in a moment of frustration, he did say that move animal.
Yeah, he beats him.
Yep. I don't remember his name, but
It was Islam.
he's Islam.
Yeah.
He's like the leader of that village.
I guess he's the
Uh,
leader. It's hard. It's hard to tell. At one point, one of the characters says, "You think better than." Well, first of all, I don't know what any of these characters said at any point because the subtitles were fucking terrible. But uh, at one point, one of the characters spoke, and the words at the bottom of my screen were, "You think better than all of us." So he's the guy who comes up with the plans. I guess. I
yep.
don't know if he's the
Yep.
leader. Kind of got the sense that one of the other men was actually like the village elder, kind of. But that guy was always like, "Mash Islam,
The guy
what do
who
we
made the
do?"
mission. Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then there is like a fear of like the invasion, or like of the three theft.
yeah, the Bulurias.
All right, you took the note. Well done.
Yeah, I didn't even write
Uh,
down the spelling of it. I wrote down the pronunciation of it because I wouldn't like
yeah,
looking at it. There's no way I'd be able to know. Of course, I'm not saying it correctly in
yeah.
like either way, but it's kind of like Bulurias is how
Oh,
the emphasis on the last syllable. Yeah, they're
yeah.
afraid of him, and they're a constant presence in the film as well. Because the first time we see him is very early on when he's taking the cow to like the watering hole
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
bathe it, and we see the three guys up on the hill.
Yeah. And it become really surreal at the end as well. So this guy actually at one point comes into the village to steal the cow to fight Hassan there, and they was in shock to the point that like they got chased away by the villagers. This is
Yeah,
what happened.
yeah. Uh,
Well,
I just don't. I just don't
uh,
know what to say about that. Like, some people came to steal the cow. It wasn't there.
yeah,
They had to flee. I don't know
yeah,
what.
that's true.
I don't know what there is to read into that. You know?
Oh man, yeah. How about all right? This is a real question. Do you think that the cow get killed uh for the purpose of these films?
Like a real cow?
The real cow, because
I don't know.
I. Yeah, I don't want to think about that either, but the way they shot the film shot the villager, like bringing the dead cow and bury them, this look very realistic to me.
Well, I'm sure that it's a dead cow. I
Yeah.
just don't know.
Is that the same guy? Yeah.
I just don't know whether it was killed for the purpose of that scene.
Yeah.
It could be that they just put the word out. Whoever was producing the film was like, "Hey, if anyone hears about a cow that dies,
Mhm.
don't bury it or chop it up or whatever. We want it. We need it for a movie." So they
Mhm.
could have done it humanely, I guess.
Yeah.
uh, but I mean, I don't know. It's the cow. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm
And
not gonna. I'm not
I
too worried about it or too like sad about it.
yeah.
It's
And
not a dog.
exactly. exactly how Hassan died.
What do you mean?
It kind of slipped my mind, but uh,
He runs off a cliff and dies because he's insane.
turn off turn off the cliff, all right? Because I remember while watching the movie, I just remember there is the parallel between like murdering the cow and murdering Hassan at the end.
Yeah, those are the only two. Well, I don't remember Hassan being buried. Um, I guess I just don't remember that scene at all. But there is a distinctive parallel between the moment when the cow is like put into the hole and the moment when
Mhm.
Hassan dies. Because those are the only two moments in the film where slow motion is used.
Yep, yep, yep.
So he really has become the cow. I
Yep,
mean, he even got the same slow motion treatment. So
yep.
transformation complete.
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah, it is. It is poor guy. I mean, the his people. The people who lived in his village. They should have done a better job taking care of him. They should have chosen to take him to the hospital like sooner.
Yep.
But what I mean, what is the message of the film? Like, if somebody goes insane, like do a better job taking care of them.
I think the message is just mm, what they call. I actually think this is the a social criticism for sure. Um, what what is it critics about? Maybe about it's not about the guy who just values the his valuable so much that he want to become one. No, I think it's just more about hmm,
It's about a guy who
it's
thinks
me
he's a
as well, man.
cow.
Yeah.
I just don't, I don't I didn't take anything away from this movie at all.
All right. I maybe this social structure of the like he really well like, and he's like one of these like better members of the society of this village, and then now he become a cow, so people just treat him poorly, and or inadequately, to the point that like he got completely insane.
No, he didn't become insane because people started treating him poorly. He became insane because
Yeah,
uh he had a mental breakdown when his cow went away.
yeah.
When he returned to his village and discovered that his cow wasn't there.
The thing is, if they tell him the truth that the cow is dead, would he behave the same? I would say so, yes.
I don't know about that. I mean I think don't lie might be like I just don't
Yeah,
like I didn't really enjoy this movie. So I'm just looking for something
right.
to take away from it or trying to think about what the film is intended to like what
I
was the director's idea? I'm trying
Yeah,
to rationalize this thing. So I'm just thinking about it in the simplest like most childhood moral terms possible. Like don't lie.
all
He
right.
comes back to the village, they lie and tell him that
I
the cow is still alive. Um And as a result, all this stuff happens. When if they had just told him it was dead, he could have grieved and moved on. Maybe that's what you're
mhm,
supposed to think and
take away
feel.
from that.
I
Yeah,
don't know,
well,
man.
I do enjoy movies. I enjoy like
How could you enjoy this
it
movie?
it is a, you see it's the movie about a guy who thought that who believes that he become a coward, and
Amazing.
like it just go from there, and I actually like, give the film the point because it's committed to that idea. The guy who really thought that he is a cow, and like he behaved like one. So like even point for his performance, like he committed to being a cow, and yeah, the story as a whole, like it's have that such absurd idea, and it just committed to it, and it doesn't go really seriously, but it's go like like pack comical and pack like criticism, which like I appreciate. We still like really hard pressed to figure out what it tried to criticize though. So like point off for that. But like as a whole, I enjoy like the tone of this movie.
Nice. That's good. I got nothing out of it, so
All right.
at least one of us did. That's a good thing.
All righty. Maybe we go to Still Life.
Sure.
Just go straight to that. All right, Still Life. I swear this is like the shortest films out the three, but it feel the longest. It feel like 3 hours movie for me, man.
This felt like 3 hours for you.
Yep.
Oh my, dude, I thought this film was a masterpiece.
Oh wow, right.
Just kidding. I hated this movie.
Well, we can go either way, like this is a film that we could go like, wow, this is a masterpiece, and like this is just that boring to me. It, and I just kind of like I kind of admire this film, but I would say like this film could be just like just a 30 minute short, and like nothing
Nothing of value
would
would be
have been.
lost.
Yeah, that's true.
I just like with the cow. I mean, I'm 1 for 3. Iran is 1 for 3
Right.
with me right now.
The first one.
Yeah, I
the
didn't
f-
like. I mean, the cow. At least there was a story that I could um, follow along with.
yeah.
And of course, there is a story in this film too. I'm not going to say it's plotless or anything. I won't say that it's pointless or that. I mean, I don't even hate the film. I said I hated it, but that was just
Don't
intended
care
to be
about it.
like a reversal of
Yeah.
saying that it was a masterpiece.
Yeah.
I don't hate this movie, but I don't remember when we watched the Wolf House, I think it was called, for the dark
Yep.
animated features episode of the podcast we
Yep.
did, and I said I don't
Yep.
ever want to watch a movie like that again, like
Yep. Yep.
a
Yep.
movie that's just really is so light on narrative that the experience of watching it seems to stretch way longer than the film's actual duration.
Yep.
That's what
Yep.
this film
Yep.
was for me. It was like watching
Yep.
The Wolf House.
Right.
Um, so
I
yeah, I don't
all right.
want to watch movies like this. They're not for me.
It all right. It's interesting that you refer the Wolf House because I was thinking of the other movie that I thought you would prefer
Jean Dielman.
in John Dillman. That's the one.
Yeah, no, that movie I was very interested from scene to scene, seeing where it would go, because I was just waiting for like the tension to snap. There was
Yep.
no tension in this film whatsoever. There was nothing in this
Agree.
film.
Well,
There
there
were
is a
probably
tension that
50 lines of dialogue total.
Yep. It it this is the one where like even without the subtitle we can pretty much understand what's going on. Yeah, so for those of you who haven't heard about this movie, this is about the old elderly couple. The man who work at like the who work as a guard in the crossing station. The woman just stay at home and like making carpet, and like they are on the brink of uh they are really on the brink because they are like they really hard to survive. They live a very simple life, and until one point where like he's too old that uh he is disregard. He
He's
he has
fired.
made
He's dismissed.
he retired. Yeah, well, he got dismissed, and so the house that he had lived for like 30 years. I don't know how much he has lived there, but for a long time. Uh, it's not for him anymore, so they have to move. the end of the story.
Yeah.
There is the last scene that like he look at the mirror, look at himself, look how old he is before like he take off. This could be prick and mirror, instead of still life.
Right. I hadn't thought about that. That's funny. I mean, I got to laugh
Well,
about something in regards to this film. Might as well be that. I really like that last shot because in terms of the composition of it, when he's
yep,
looking into the mirror like that, the mirror is hanging on the wall of the home. It's as though he's like a part of the house, just in terms of, uh, you
yep,
know, just visually, he's there in the shot with the rest of the house, the wall of it.
yep,
And then without the camera cutting, the mirror is taken down from the wall. He's disappeared.
yep,
So it's as though
yep,
he's disappeared from the home that he's being forcibly removed from. He's disappeared from the minds of the people who employed him. They're just like, you no longer work for us. God be with you, and get the fuck out.
yep.
And he, and he, I don't know. You could even maybe it's even a comment from the director about just old people in general disappearing from our memory
Yep.
once they're no longer
True.
useful. And we don't
Yep.
care about them anymore. They just vanish from our collective consciousness. So I certainly understand what the film is getting at by taking its very slow pace. It's acquainting us with the way that these older people live their lives, and the intention, I think, is to get us like accustomed to it, so that we're living it together with them and we're experiencing life the way that they do. The problem
Mhm.
is, I'm dumb and I guess like hyperactive and distracted person. Just being as young as I am and being like as media saturated as I am, I guess, having seen a lot of films where the camera cuts like every 1.5 seconds, and I just can't fucking do it. Like I can't
Yep.
watch this film and get anything out of it. Um,
Well,
I
yep.
understand what is there to be gotten, but
Mhm.
it's not for me.
Yeah, well, I sort of agree with you on that because I think this is just feel too long. But yeah, we get a sense of them. Let's talk about this movie. We get a sense of them going through their everyday life, and we see them having some visitor as well. One of them is the son who like in the military, I suppose,
Yeah,
and
I think so.
go back to the house and like sleep his day through and take off. And I just remember that scene, that conversation where he say like he been pushed into the place that like 2 days away from here. And
The wife is like,
where the
"Where? Where is
yeah
that?"
the that's right. And the husband just say it's the far away, it's somewhere far away.
Yeah,
It just to let you know that this guy had been staying here for their whole life, and like didn't really go anywhere
yeah,
as well.
yeah.
So, and then there is a later scene where the guys who come by to buy the carpet, and they really make a hassle out of them, and to get the rug cheap.
Yep, that happens.
Yeah, and even the husband say that like this, we're not making
Right.
even like even this is like a rob.
I think you just summarized
And
the entire movie.
I just did. Yep.
Yeah,
God bless.
they're elderly. The guys who come to buy the carpet don't really care about whether they are living a fulfilling life or not, whether they're financially solvent. So they just take it for a pittance because they know these people are poor and they need the
Yep.
money. However much money they can get for it, they'll take it.
And yep. And another guy come. Oh, we didn't talk about the uh when the husband come to the cities, and I talk about the resignation letters. So he first came to the police, right? And
The
uh,
police?
yeah, I think at first he came into some sort of the office, and I thought it was the police station.
I don't. I mean, I don't think so.
Yeah, well, that guy read something and then just give that letter to the boss, and the boss just say like it had nothing to do with us. Go, like go for the 2 3 buildings.
Oh,
Who are they?
I don't know.
Remember who are they? Because I think this is the police, and
Maybe.
it would make sense for the husband. Like when he got discharged, he think that it is injustice. He would go to the police,
Yeah,
and
I guess.
and then whoever they are, they just send them him straight to the boss, and the boss just like this is like scene could be taken from Prick and Mirrors. They just talk. He has another company, and they just talk to each others, and about like, irrelevant things, and didn't care about the husbands,
Oh,
and just
I
shoo
thought
him
that's
off.
who you were talking about before.
All right.
Those two
So
guys who
be
were talking about like, oh yeah, she's my cousin or
yeah, 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 yeah.
something along those lines.
All
I
right.
thought that's
So
who you were
I
talking about when you were talking about the cops. I don't even remember whoever it is that he goes to before that.
all right. Remember that now. When
No, I
he
don't
come
remember.
into one of the all right, when he came into the office. So before that, before he came into like the boss office, he came into one of the office, and there was two guys, I think, in uniform, but I'm not sure is it the police or not. And he said like, why you come here? And he said like, I got the letter. So one of them read the letters. And I said like, okay, this is the resignation letter. So
Okay.
let me check
With-
to the boss.
I don't I don't care about this movie.
All
I
right.
by the time I got to the end of it, I wasn't really focusing on it at all. I mean, my eyes were looking at it, but I was so I can't in my mind distinguish between what you're talking about and the other scene that you're talking about. To me, it was just
Yep.
two scenes with a couple of guys who didn't care about this old guy.
Yep.
Um,
Okay.
that's all I got. I don't
Yep.
know. Maybe he went to the cops. Maybe he didn't. In any
Yep.
case,
It failed, and he had to move.
yeah, he's got to move, and it's sad. I mean, I
And then he
what
looked.
is there to say?
Yeah, yeah. Well, let me do the finishing line,
Let you cook?
the, and then he looked at the prick at his house, and the mirror at the house, and the prick and mirror things,
Yep.
and that's the end of the story.
Yeah.
Well, apparently it was screened at the Berlin's film festival, where it was silver bear, which is like the second best films
Oh
out
yeah.
of that festivals.
Yeah. When a cinephile or a film critic sees something like this, and they start to feel like kind of sleepy or tired or bored, they're like, "Man, I know this is some good shit right now."
Well,
Because I know if
I
I say that this is that I like this, everyone's gonna be like,
Mhm.
"Oh my god, this guy actually liked this movie. His movie brain must be massive."
All right. I did a check, and they have like for that years in Berlin, they had like the first film that won Golden Bear, the Silver Bear jury prize, which is maybe the second prize, and they have like five other films that won Silver Bears. So this is one of these five. So it's not even like the second best film out of that festival. Just to clarify.
Well, it's not the second best, the best, the worst, or anything else. The which film wins which award doesn't have anything to do with how good the film is.
Yep. Yep. True. So yeah. Oh well, I still just say that this is a good film to watch. The good film, but it's not. It's a good film, but it's not a good film to watch.
What's the difference? Films are meant to be watched. What do you do with a film except watch it?
I mean like it still have its message. It's still like very fairly well done for like for the message of the films. And like all the acting was pretty good as well. So this is not a bad movie at all, but it's just not a movie to enjoy, to watch and enjoy.
Yeah.
At least at this stage of our life, maybe like in 10, 15, 20 years time, we come to appreciate it.
Well, I maybe like by the time I'm 80 and I watch this movie and I can
Oh,
more closely relate to the main character, maybe I'll be like, man,
yep,
this movie was great all along. It only took
yep,
me 50
yep,
years to realize it.
yep, yep, yep. And you listen to this podcast and you say like, what is the young Whooper was
Well,
saying?
I don't think YouTube's going to exist in 50 years. I'm pretty
Well,
sure all all the information that's currently on YouTube
or,
will get wiped
or,
out.
or
Something will happen.
oh well, or maybe in 50 years old time, this become archive, and people can access it for free, and there will be some crazy dude who like who really into the triple cross cinema and listen to all this.
He's going to be very disappointed in me, I'm sure.
Okay.
Brick and Mirror was all right. That's
Yep.
yeah. I the next time there's a movie, I'm serious about this. The next time a movie we like, because we oftentimes the three films we pick are films that neither of us have seen. You're more likely to have seen any given film
Yep.
than I am, but
Yep.
sometimes, as in the case of this particular episode, we haven't seen any of the
Yep.
three films.
Yep.
So it's nobody's fault that they end up getting selected for us to watch or anything. But the next time a film like Still Life, we choose that. If I get 30 minutes into a movie and I'm like bored out of my skull, I'm quit. I'm stopping.
All right.
That's it. I'm
Um.
not doing
All right.
another Still Life.
We can get away with that by watching them early, so that like if you get bored, if each of us get bored of something, we can just decide to pick something else instead.
But I mean, what is the actual likelihood of us like being on schedule and
Watching
watching stuff ahead of time?
it.
What are the
Yeah,
chances
well,
of that realistically?
yeah, that's true. Because I have a look on the like the first wave of Iranian new wave, and they have like a very popular movie at the time that's named Killshot. Start with the Q E Shah.
Okay.
Uh, and this, according to the source I read here, which is Wikipedia, the film was considered a landmark in an Iranian cinemas and led to the new trend of brooding noir dramas in which outrage family honor is avenged. That's actually pretty interesting. So
Okay.
yeah, we could switch that film for something like this to watch.
Yeah. If we watch the films ahead of time.
Yep, yep, yep.
But I'm saying
And
though,
and
that's
even though like even like if I watched Still Life before, I wouldn't be the person who will tell Whooper this film is boring. Try something else. I would still stick with that.
yeah.
So it depends on you know the taste as well.
Well, that's true. I'm just letting you know
Yep, yep. Okay.
I will do that. Like the other
Well,
podcasts that
funny.
we've got going about anime, we there was one film, Omoi Omowade Furi Furade, I think.
Yep, yeah, 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 yeah.
And I just stopped watching halfway through, and then we met up, on virtually to talk about it. And I was like, "Yeah, I only saw half of this. I will do that
Yep.
again. This is a threat."
Love be love, live be left.
Right?
I think that's the English name.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
So that's maybe what I got out of this whole episode. Thank you, Iran, for making me less tolerant of really slow movies.
uh,
Brick and Mirror,
yeah.
pretty good though.
Mhm. Yep, that's it for us for this podcast. And yep, we will decide on which countries or which era that we going to watch the next time. So stay tuned.
That won't be for a while. Probably
Yep.
till late April, early May. maybe switch it up and watch something a little bit more accessible.
Hmm.
Or maybe not.
Mhm,
We'll
mhm.
see. Maybe I'll have to, make good on my threat as early as like a month and a half from now. Time will
Yep.
tell.
Yep. We talk to you guys soon then.